So here's a little bit of Spar and Brawl. You got old Sam and Cam. Cam and Sam. Sam and Cam. Cam and Sam. And they're talking about something or another. They put a lot of work into these shows. Everybody should be checking these guys out, to be honest with you. They are much more intelligent than every person in America. They are smarter than every single one of you American sons of bitches. Now, I'd say Sam is probably more knowledgeable on world affairs and politics, and Cam, he seems... I mean, he clearly gives a shit, right? Because he's doing the show too. But I feel like he's kind of like more of the family man. He's kind of like, he's got, this is a job, and we got to make some money, and we got to put out some good entertaining content. And then Sam is kind of the expert, so therefore it's kind of like Sam is saying, okay, Cam, what do you think about, so-and-so and this and that? And then he kind of, I think he's into like soccer or something. He pays attention to politics, but he also pays attention to, other stuff. So that's a little clip there. Eventually they're going to start talking about user comments, and then I'm going to pull them back up. But first of all, Sam has made me think of the U.S. Empire differently. The U.S. Empire is pointed. We got 900 military bases in 150 countries. We got 50, states, 50 nifty United States, and then 14 colonies, including Puerto Rico and a whole bunch of other islands. And then we just got all these little military bases pointed all over the place. And so I'm glad that he had said that essentially the official position is that it's the United Nations. It's not, the empire is not American empire. The empire is the United Nations empire. And the United Nations empire is America, but it's also France and Britain and, China and not India, which, why would India not have a seat at the Security Council table? Who else? Let's see, America, Russia, UK, France, and China. So the 5 Security Council members have veto power, so therefore anything that the UN tries to do, then the 5 big dogs could just shut the whole thing down. And so, therefore, Sam has said that the U.S. Empire was actually those 5 nations. The United Nations and the 5 nations in the Security Council is the empire. And that is a more precise definition. And, I remember I was in Spalding University, and I asked it's a teacher training school. And so I'm asking these, would-be teachers. I asked them a couple questions. I asked them if they knew anything. Give me a date on the American Revolution, which they didn't have. But I had also asked one of the students who had come from France if they referred to America as the empire, because some other French students had referred to America as the empire. And that just, struck me as interesting and different. And I personally don't like the empire. I don't think the empire, helps the working class. But a lot of these, fucking tyrants, they want to be the king, right? They want to be the king, and then the emperor, right? That's like the next level up. That's like, ooh, look at the emperor, right? Whatever. America is what it is. And so I think we're a pointed empire. We're a pointed empire. We're a colonial, colonizing society. We have 14 colonies and basically 900 little military base colonies. But just a whole bunch, 900 all over the place, and then, 14 islands, and then 50 states. That's America. So thank you for telling me that, Sam. Sam helped me to clarify, really where America is situated in the world. Now, I'm kind of curious, because they're going to pull up some of my questions here. And I'd ask them, did they have good intentions? Because it's one thing to criticize America, but if you're doing it for like a constructive, to make America better, because I feel like the world is schizophrenic when it comes to the United States. Part of them are resentful of our military dominance, but then a lot of the nations, I think, think America's very cool. And there's 80% of Africa. 80% of Africa approved of George W. Bush as the president when he left office. When he had like a 30% approval rating or something really low in America. In Africa, he had 80%. 80%. That's incredible. So we're going to talk about liberalism, and I think liberalism is when you combine democracy with capitalism. And that's what Francis Fukuyama also says too. I believe it's the Washington Consensus. You have elections, and that's democracy, right? A representative democracy, but you have to have, I would tend towards more of a pure direct democracy. Everybody votes on all the issues. But the representative democracy is actually brilliant because you can vote, so therefore you have the consent of the governed, but then once the people are in power, then they can, govern. Then they can govern. So it's not like they have to weigh in on every single issue with the people. They could actually go in there and get the damn job done. Or at least they got a year or two, right? Every 2 years it's the House.
I don't know what he said exactly, but he was made fun of for taking credit for. Yeah. And John Masters.
Here we go.
Really hardcore sort of. Chill out. It's not fun anymore. So liberalism is both democracy and capitalism. I
mean, they go together and they're like place and all this. Like, sometimes they're not enemies, but they're different things. But they coexist. My only point is that they coexist.
I think, look, when we talk about liberals in America right now, we are talking about Democratic Party support.
No, liberalism.
We talk about liberalism originally, as it was conceived. I agree with John Masters and you that it was all of that. But I think now, in light of criticisms from people like Marx, and again, we're going to talk about this in a bit. Okay, so passive-aggressive. Fine. I think that's the point I'm trying to make, that democracy, capitalism too, I think in its extreme forms, but again, I still can't, it's very difficult for me to differentiate between capitalism and life, to be honest. But democracy especially, I think at this point we can say, even though it was originally 100% conceived as one part of one thing, I think democracy, at least at mass form, is detrimental to liberalism. It's antagonistic. So what I disagree with you there. Or just like capitalism can be.
Yeah, but different versions of them coexist with each other, I would say, to an extent.
I would say elements of all of them exist in our society, right? And it's just we're trying to balance them out. But I wouldn't say they're necessarily complementary. That's what I'm saying.
But they can work
Those
together.
elements can crash.
It seems, but yeah, they can also crash. I don't know.
That's all. Like, for example, a famous example, like...
And Western countries believe that they have these three things in place. Now, whether that's right or wrong is a different question, whether that's accurate or not.
Oh, yes. The general sort of mainstream propaganda that's espoused is that the West, whatever the West means, which I hate that term anyway, is sort of liberal, democratic, and capitalistic. And all of those terms are highly problematic. Capitalistic thing is the least problematic part because it's just the definition is so broad. I don't know what doesn't fit in there, but yeah. So fair. But then also John Masters is...
Well, let me respond there, Mr. Sam. That's Sam and Kam. So Sam and Kam, they are, I don't think they're Americans. I think they're Switzerland people, Switzers. Or they're in Switzerland. I'm not for sure where they're originally from. But Switzerland, they're in Switzerland and they're commenting on American politics for some reason. And I like him. There's that bad empanada. I think he's got bad intentions. And so I don't like, people with bad intentions. Now, Francis Fukuyama, Sam, I don't know if you're going to listen to any of this, but if you do, There's a guy named Francis Fukuyama. He wrote this article called The End of History back in the 90s or some shit, and he keeps on writing books and more articles on top of it. But the end of history is, he defines liberalism very specifically. He says, liberal democratic states tied to market economies. So liberal democratic states, Bill of Rights, right to freedom of the press, freedom of speech, and shit like that, 3 branches of government, and liberal democratic states, elections. That's probably the most important thing. We don't have many direct pure democracies, which is what I would like. Now, it's interesting that he's saying democracy is detrimental. What would he suggest? A monarchy or some shit? I think ultimately, when you think about all the different ways of monarchy, oligarchy, plutocracy, rule by the few, rule by the rich, rule by the one, no, rule by the people. Like, it's the worst of the, it's a bad choice, but it's the least bad choice, right? That's something Winston Churchill, but eventually you have to fucking conclude that democracy is the way to be. It's like, no, let's just have a government where the people don't even matter. Nah, let's just put the people off to the side and not give a shit about. So Francis Fukuyama defines liberalism as liberal democratic states tied to market economies. So you have your elections, but then you also have market economies, right? So you tie your dollar to gold and whatever. You fucking have jobs, and you can quit your job and you can start a business, and that's what he is saying, is that's the ideal form of political organization. America got it right, and the rest of the world is following it, in America's footsteps. We can elect our leaders, and then we could also chase after the almighty dollar. So when I think about liberalism, I also think about neoliberalism, since we're this fucking empire, and we keep on, spreading idea. What are we actually spreading? There's always like McDonald's, right? They always get the corporations to set up shop. But there's a lot of things with capitalism. If you want to go strictly to what classical liberalism is, I think you have to go to Milton Friedman, or especially American capitalism. He bounces. He's like standing on classical liberalism, but he called himself a classical liberal. And he meant classical liberal in the sense of, we have democracies and we have capitalism. So let the people work and let the people sell their goods. So Milton Friedmanism is capitalism 101. Milton Friedmanism is capitalism 101, especially for American capitalists. And even though there is democracy, and capitalism is very much opposed to each other. The democracy is rule from below, and capitalism is rule from the top, right? Board of directors, CEO, and then it's very hierarchical. And a corporation's got to get their, charter from the state. Democracy is one person, one vote. So I champion the people. I like democracy. But Mitch McConnell once said the best argument against democracy is 5 minutes, with the average voter. So I understand the problems with democracy. The problem is mob rule. You just don't want every other day, the mob could be do this way, and then one day all of a sudden just do it the opposite way. And it's mob rule doesn't make sense. So I think representative democracy tempers, that mob rule substantially. Frankly, it's almost like I don't even know as an American if I have a say-so. I mean, Lauren Boebert is my representative, and I tweeted, a couple things at her 2 years ago or some shit, and didn't get any response. So it's like, that's how our system works. Hey, Rep, can you do something for me? You can't hear me? Not, hello? Is this thing on? It'd be like, what's his fucking name? So Milton Friedman is capitalism 101. So there's a inherent sort of clash, because capitalism is hierarchical and democracy is rule from below. But it's the end of history because we've already agreed on everything. And actually, Francis Fukuyama is almost sad about it. It's like, oh my God, we're not going to have any more great wars. We're not going to have these great capitalism versus communist wars. We're not going to have these great democracy versus monarchy or royalist, oligarch. No, plutocracy. What's going to rise up above a democracy? A plutocracy. The fucking monarchy is horse shit. And frankly, if you want to be the monarch, then get some votes, okay? You couldn't even get anybody you couldn't convince the people of your plan. Are you sure your plan is good? Because if you couldn't convince the people of your plan, that's the one thing that a president has over a king. He's got fucking 100 million voters behind him. Who the fuck is behind this king? Just his mama? Just him and his mama? That's it? He needs more than that. Liberal democratic states tied to market economies. So liberalism and neoliberalism, when we're, out there in Iraq and Syria and wherever we're fucking sticking our tentacles, Cameroon. Essentially, liberal democratic states tied to market economies is the end of history. If the nation isn't liberal democratic or tied to market economies, eventually it will be. Because that's the direction it's all going. And he's making it kind of sad, like, oh my gosh, if we're all just a bunch of democratic capitalists, what is the point? Just elections here and just selling some wares over there. Goodness gracious. I think it's fantastic. It's exciting. It comes from Hegel. Hegel is, this German philosopher. But essentially, he had said the end of history was like the end point. History has a telos or a goal. The end point is equivalent to the emergence of a perfectly rational and just state. That state would guarantee the liberty necessary for the full development of all human capacities. At the same time, it would exist in a state of perpetual peace with other similarly configured states. Hegel, according to So, the end state, the perfect state, the utopia. So you have monarchy, oligarchy, fascism, authoritarian nationalism. What the fuck would communism, theocracies? What would you say is better than a democratic capitalist, nation, society? The state's going to have to be elections, so it has to be democracy. And then I think actually, even in America, I keep saying capitalistic. We're very much a mixed system. We have, public spending with schools, Social Security, old people pensions, highways, libraries, public schools, firefighters, police. There's a lot of shit that, a lot of government that we spend our money on. In fact, it goes against a lot of Milton Friedman. He says we got to, slim government down. The only real thing Milton Friedman said when it comes to government is we need a court system in order for the corporations to resolve their disputes. So you have to have a, non-biased playing field. You have to have an even playing field when it comes to resolving corporations, the disputes between corporations. So he was real big about having a fair court system, but he says to sell off all the, all the parks and all the waterworks, whatever the hell the government's into, sell the snow trucks and the police and the fire, just slim it down as, and privatize it all. So instead of having a police force, just have a security, every once in a while, whatever, just for an hour or some shit, I don't know. But court system. So anyways, liberalism is both democracy and capitalism. And that's, I'm using Francis Fukuyama's The End of History as sort of my measuring stick because I think he's right. I think he's right. And it's, my younger socialist self, oh no. And then tied to market economies, but it's a liberal democratic state. Yeah, I mean, if anything, you want to critique democracy, go ahead. But if you don't come up with something better, if not democracy, then what? Leninism? And if, Leninism was a dictator to feed the people, right? That's what communists or fascists are. We're just going to have a Lenin, not to feed the people, but just to put the boot on your all's fucking faces, just to get shit in order. Nah, we got to get shit in order. Are you going to feed anybody? Nope. Are you promising anything? No, sirree. No, we're not going to promise shit. Just we're going to get shit in order. That's all we're going to. So if I have to choose between those two authoritarians, I'd rather have the authoritarian who at least wants to feed us, right? Okay, get everything in order, but also here's some food and clothing and housing and jobs maybe, and maybe a jet or two. I don't know. So let's see. Let's get back to the fun, huh?
So again, this kind of gets to the heart of the contradiction. What if minority protest? Is that ruled by demos, or is that ruled by not demos? So we'll talk about it.
Sure.
I'm just saying. But then, basically, at some point in his comments says that he's helping us with the algorithm, which is very nice. But then he gets personal. My end goals are to raise my family in a crime-free neighborhood. I would agree with that, just at a personal level. I think you would agree with that, except that I'm kind of anti-family, but whatever. Sure, to make it a little better, but personally what you get what you want to get for you? Like, well, same, I guess.
Yeah, just the first one.
Safe. Plus some, I guess, entertainment should be included.
Yeah.
Just safety.
I would say, yeah, most likely just...
So they're going to, go on with that. Check them out. Subscribe to them. They're really cool. And I'm just going to respond to a couple things. They're very interesting. And I actually, God, when they, help articulate my ideas, when they talk about my ideas and they come up with different things, they kind of help articulate the thing. And then he's actually going to, at the end, say that he likes the Civil War. And the English Civil War helped England and the English people. The English Civil War brought about a constitution and it got rid of the royalists. The English Civil War got rid of the royalists, got rid of the monarch, and gave us the constitution. And then 20, 40 years later, you're going to see a Bill of Rights is going to pop up. And so that's the parliamentarians. We also got a Congress, So the idea that a monarch has divine authority, hereditary succession, the damn prince has been raping chambermaids, so therefore he should be the damn president. Why don't you go get a platform and then get some people to vote for you? And then if you want to, what's my ideal? Well, there's two things that Sam had said. Minority protests with democracy, because they had a disagreement where he was saying, Kam was saying that protest is democracy. And Sam was saying that it wasn't. And I get what he's saying. A minority protest is not demos. It's not the people. But it's a part of the people. And actually here in Colorado, we have initiative. In Kentucky, we don't have initiatives. But in Colorado, we got initiatives. So therefore, if you get, a chunk of the people, 100 people, and then depending on, if it's local or state or whatever, you get 100 people and they sign the petition because the people put the thing on the ballot. There's nothing that the powers of that be can do. So that is a minority of the people, but it's of the people, of, by, and for the people. So I see your point. But I don't think it takes away from democracy, because when I think of democracy, it means a lot to me. And Colorado has a lot of good democracy. We have same-day registration, technically speaking, on the books. So if you go in and you say, I want to get registered, that means you get registered that day. If you just moved into Colorado, if you just moved into a different place, same-day registration. We have written ballots. They send it out about 30 days. You have plenty of time to blue books. They send these thick blue books out, so there's plenty of time for you to look at the issues and look at the people and make a determination. But it doesn't have ranked choice voting. So we got a lot of democracy. When I think about democracy, I think of the 3 branches of government. I think of the Bill of Rights. I think of a whole bunch of shit ruled by the people. And so there are some problems with democracy. But ultimately, whatever problems with democracy, you can fix. What? You need you need rich people? Okay, get that rich motherfucker to get some votes. You want a plutocracy? You can get it. You want an oligarchy? You want a fucking monarchy? You can get it through democracy. You can get all the other ones through democracy, but you can't get any of the other ones. The other ones are more exclusive. And so democracy should, jealously safeguard, but ultimately, you have to pick one of those. One of those is right. Even, with have a T-chart. What are the pros and cons? Because I think you need to, I don't know, either critique democracy and give me an alternative, or accept that democracy, a democratic republic. Even elected representation is, that's the best system. That's the best system. What system is better? What system is better than democracy? So, minority protest, yeah, they could actually very much represent against, the Nazis are fucking against democracy. They almost use democracy to use it against itself. So, of the people, by the people, for the people. I think you make a good point about minority protest. It's not all the people. Democracy isn't all the people. I want you to develop, I want to hear Sam's critique of democracy. What's the problem, and then what's the better alternative? They're going to ask, I asked about 3 different wars: the Revolution, the Civil War, and World War II, because that's my politics. You want to know what my politics is? World War II, Civil War, and the American Revolution. So every self-defensive measure is a just war. That's what Kam had said. That's sweet. That's nice. That's like almost obvious, right? Somebody's attacking you. You have a right to defend yourself. But then Kam actually said something interesting that made me think again. He says he loves wars for unification. I love the Civil War. American Civil War, I think, was great. I think the English Civil War was great. Wars for unification. You have Germany Germany, so the Civil War, Abraham, they technically, why couldn't fucking Florida wants to secede? I mean, that cesspool, fuck that state. Get the fuck out of the country. I wouldn't give a shit if they seceded today. And in a way, there was, legal justification when America was formed. It was formed as like a loose confederation, but when they said, hey, we're getting the hell out of here, Abraham Lincoln, there was a war, not just against slavery, but it was also a war for unification. Germany, too, today, it used to be like 100, 200 German-speaking nations, German-speaking tribes. And they, just all scattered all over the place. And then Prussia came by and just conquered all the rest of them and then called them Germany. And there was 3 wars. They fought against France and then Hesse-Schleswig and another one. But that was the one that he was kind of saying, well, self-defense is okay, but what about wars for unification? And now I'm like, well, shit. If Prussia was invading, all these other German countries, they did have a right to defend themselves. I think it's good that Germany is I think it's good that America is a solid nation today. Even with fucking shitty goddamn Alabama and Mississippi and motherfucking Florida. The good thing about the South is that's where all the black folks are. So that's the only good thing that the South has got going for them. But wars for unification, I guess that would be like one of the few times no, you can't defend yourself. Who would that be? Hesse, Schleswig or something? How many countries are over there? I don't know. Bavaria. No, Bavaria, you cannot defend yourself. Why not? Because we're all going to be Germans. But we are Bavarians. But we are Bavarians. So, in my ideal world, I have a corporation. Well, it depends if I'm the mayor. If I'm the mayor, then I'm making all the corporations act right. And so that's your democracy and corporation. Corporations are running roughshod, trying to make a shit ton of fucking money. But I'm the mayor, making sure that, there's public safety and the trains running on time. But also making sure the corporations aren't tax them enough, or Eisenhower taxed corporations like 90%, but not even, he wouldn't take 90%, he'd probably take like 80%, but essentially just to make them act right. So you can make all your fucking money, corporations, but when you make those profits, put it back into the company and create more jobs. That's what we need for you to do. Be a socially responsible corporation. So I would make, if I was a corporate leader, I'd make, a corporation that's making money, but the main engine of the corporation would be the union. The shop foreman would run the show. It's democratic. So that's what I think of with democratic capitalism. We're voting, right, for the contract, for the leadership, for major policy changes. That tension. There's a tension, the top versus the bottom, right? And I think that generates greatness. The democracy is the people saying no, 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 no. And so if the monarch, the elected king, the president, right, if they go too far over, then I think the democracy, the people, then they, can correct. The Titanic, crashed, and the captain thought he fucking knew everything, but if he was like, you know what, it's kind of dark out here, can everybody, all the people of the ship, pay attention, and then when you see an iceberg, just shout, scream. So if you had the demos paying attention along with the captain, I think we would have avoided the iceberg, probably, maybe, I don't know. The demos would have screamed and said, and maybe they would have said it in time. You have to have that corrective measure. I don't know if that's a perfect metaphor, but the people are just like hanging out, right? And fucking drinking champagne and shit. Oh, shit. We're sinking. Did you want me to look out the window? I could have yelled at you guys if you wanted me to. Did you want me to keep an eye on and see if there's any icebergs out here? I would have been a good passenger on Titanic. I would have been. Aren't there icebergs out here? I feel like we should go south. So there you go. There you go. And also, I'm off grid, so I'm doing my damnedest. I'm doing my best out here. Yeah, I'm off grid, and motherfucker had some goddamn. A stalker. I had a fucking stalker too, so. For 3 weeks, been able to breathe a little bit. Just saying, you know, for Sam and Cam, I wish it could be better, more higher quality, but we're communicating. Isn't that the point? Isn't that the point?